So welcome to Make Up Your Life with me, Devon Testagrossa, as your host, and with a very special guest, Shay Bailey. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. So a little bit about Shay. You started as a freelance artist, right? While going to school.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And did you go to school for what? Business? What did you go to school for?
It's
I'm just curious.
No,
I'm just curious because no one's degree ever lines up with what they end up doing.
it never does. So I went to school for communications and with a minor in advertising, with the whole thought process that I would work in the sports industry and work on marketing and ad campaigns for professional sports teams. And clearly that. So your hypothesis is correct.
All right, great. I had a feeling. So you started out thinking that you would just do makeup once you graduated, right? Maybe a little bit under when you're, finishing your undergrad. And then basically what happened is it stuck and you decided never to go into sports.
Yeah, never to go into like that communications. And so here's the thing, it's interesting. I was so A-type my whole career, like my whole I shouldn't say career, but while I was a student. And I tried to check off all the boxes and do all the things that I had knew to do in order to be a successful student during my high school, college years, and then to be able to enter the workforce. And my final semester, I just wanted to be free, if you will. So I was that college student that I was involved in several student activities, just all types of stuff, you name it. I was on the board for it, so I just wanted to be free that final semester. So I let go of all of my student activities and organizations that I was involved in. And I decided that I wanted to work at the mall. That's something that I had never done. I wanted that experience. And working at the mall came by way of working with a company, a smaller makeup line at the time named Shay Cosmetics. I worked as a makeup artist on the weekends for them, and I was always an artist. So I had the color theory and the just the overall understanding of placement. But really, those early years working, on the weekends at the mall really helped me from a customer service perspective and just understanding the world of makeup as it exists off paper, like as it exists when you're dealing with one-on-one.
Sure. And so from there, did you end up with M.A.C? Because ultimately you ended up at M.A.C, right? As a regional manager.
Yes. So I stayed with Shay for a short time. Post graduation, that summer I started doing makeup freelance. As soon as I graduated from college, met a M.A.C artist, and that relationship sort of bloomed instantly. I decided to try out for M.A.C. Started with M.A.C part-time right out of school as a 10-hour artist. And within a couple of years, I saw my career path into leadership by way of management. So I managed several M.A.C locations and then went on to regional management. My last position was manager of retail sales and operations, and I was with M.A.C for 13 years. So essentially went to M.A.C, found a home, found people that I loved, people that I could relate with, and I, stayed there for 13 years. It was a great ride.
When I was a young artist, I was dying to get into M.A.C because they gave you great education. You could be a celebrity artist. I mean, it was a great gateway into a lifelong career. So tell me how you got into it.
I can't agree with you more. It's interesting because my freelance career prior to M.A.C, it really, every job I was on, whether, and I was doing bigger jobs, out in New York, and people would often ask, well, do you work for M.A.C? Have you ever worked for M.A.C? So as a freelance artist at the time, it was sort of one of those things, no matter what you were doing in the industry as a makeup, you kind of wanted that, that not, if you will. So when I met a great friend of mine, we ended up being great friends. We were working on a freelance job together, and she worked for M.A.C part-time. And she suggested, like, hey, I know a location that's hiring, it's part-time, I think you should go for it. And when I went for it and got that position, again, I said it was only 10 hours a week, but it was such a, I can't tell you what it felt like to work with people each and every day that share values, the same values and interests as you. So really for me, if and all of the plans that I had, established for myself post college shifted in that moment. I knew that this is what I wanted to do and this is where I wanted to be. So, yeah, I work with some of the most amazing makeup artists and most recognized artists from this area because essentially many of us, most of us share that common entry point of working for M.A.C.
Yeah. So we always tell our students, and definitely any new aspiring artists, they should get some retail experience anyways. It helps condition you to know how to sell yourself because everybody gets stuck on that, right? It's really just about branding yourself and letting people know what it is that you do. But when people think about it in a way of selling, if you will, they can be the best artists in the world and they're not going to make any money because they don't know how to correctly market themselves. So we always recommend
Yeah.
all of our students. Would you say the same?
Absolutely, and you bring up a really great point with being able to sell yourself and be able to connect with people in the real world because it's very different when you get real world clients, right? So you definitely develop that muscle. Another muscle you develop is being able to recommend products based on what real customer needs are. So, yes, all this digital world we live in is phenomenal, right? You can pretty much pull up a video on anything at this point. So I think, all of those learnings, everything you learn in school is really critical to set you apart as a makeup artist. The other piece is real time recommendations, real time question and answer support, real time foundation matching, even, having customers come in and having you flex your artistry muscle to see, what's the best recommendation for this customer? What's the best combination for this customer? How can I get them to, how can I recommend what they need? And how can I grow in that as an artist? So I definitely recommend some retail experience, even, a couple years of it can't hurt you.
Yeah. So bring us back to when you first knew you loved makeup. I mean, way, way back. Like when I remember having a caboodle and just trying it on my friends. And right, I was super young. So tell us, what was that moment that you really had a love for
Oh my
makeup?
gosh. So I have to credit one of my aunts. She sold Mary Kay. And
Oh,
known
yeah,
oh
Mary
my
Kay.
gosh, she was known for it. Everyone went to her house to get their Mary Kay. It was just, it was a thing. And again, it was a rite of passage. So I could not wait for that moment for me to be able to get my Mary Kay. Like, when was I going to be old enough? When would my parents approve? So one summer I stayed with her and I had to be, maybe 13 or so, even though, my parents were okay with me, doing little things like a little lip gloss. They definitely weren't okay with, a full on makeup regimen. And when I stayed with her that summer, it was that rite of passage. She took me to Northland Mall. She took me to the Clinique counter and she bought me my very first foundation. And then I got a few lipsticks from Mary Kay from her. And that was it. I remember having that little compact in my purse forever. I wore makeup every single day from that point on. So my aunt is definitely the catalyst that made me believe and just activated that in me. Like I knew that I was a beauty girl, whether I was wearing it and later on discovering that I wanted to be a makeup artist, but definitely falling in love with beauty happened in that moment.
Yeah, that's so exciting as a young
Yes.
girl,
Oh
isn't
my
it?
gosh. Yes.
So, okay, so then tell me now fast forwarding a little bit, you had this discovery. Did you jump right into Mac or did you try to freelance a little
No,
bit?
luckily,
What did you do in the interim?
the stars were aligned. I jumped right into Mac. I did. So again, I freelanced on my own a little bit. I had some instant connections with some really great photographers that were locally here, where I was able to freelance a bit. But for Mac, once I interviewed, I immediately jumped into an artistry position. And the great thing about that is, to your point earlier, you instantly get, the training, support, all those things you would need in order to set you up for success. So yeah, my first time on the floor with Mac, I was a Mac artist.
Yeah. So then when did you realize, and Mac makes it a little bit easier because the wages are a little easier, it's a little more consistent, but when did you realize like, okay, I can do this full time? Because you started with the
Hmm.
10 hours. And then did you just work your way up until you were regional manager
Yeah,
or how did
I
that
worked
go?
my way up the entire way. So I started with the 10 hours. And here's the thing, you have different almost different experience levels based on the locations you work in. So I started as a 10-hour at a slower location. Then, manager at the time, recommended, okay, faster pace, right? Like, so let's get you to a counter that's a little more fast paced. You're working with more customers, more artists, because you learn from the people around you. So in the early stages, it was about being able to touch and make more connections, whether it be with coworkers or with clients. And then once I had that faster or high volume experience, I already knew that I wanted to go into leadership opportunities. So once I had the high volume experience, I then went into leadership, which was, your key holder management positions, floor management, that sort of deal. And then going on to manage locations solely, to be the retail manager for the higher volume locations. So I managed the Macy's counter, at Somerset for many years. I think 4 years I managed that counter. I managed the M.A.C store at Somerset. And at that point, I was on track to regional management. So after managing the M.A.C store, I went into a training position for regional leadership where I managed several locations, had several store managers reporting into me, and just learning that, really that business side. Of, yeah,
I was going to say cuz at that point you're out of touch with
yeah,
actually doing
yeah.
makeup, right? You're really on the
You're
business side of
definitely
it.
correct. You're spending way more time on the business, and you're connecting with those managers and really looking at goal setting and development of their team, development of their skills. So yes, that position helped me greatly. I spent some years in that position and then went on to the manager of retail sales and operations, where I manage several, we call them doors, locations, on my own. And the great thing about that experience is I worked with several retailers. So I managed doors for Macy's, Nordstrom, and I oversaw the expansion into Ulta, managed several doors in Michigan and Ohio for M.A.C and Ulta, and also still the freestanding store. So, that, yeah,
That's that's amazing. And just in a short time, right? What is
yeah,
it,
it was
12 or
13,
13
and I'll
years?
tell you, I went into the management roles really quickly. Within 4 years, I was already working in management positions, in store management positions, and by my 6th year was when I was working in a more regional capacity. So yeah, very once you know, and it's with life, right? Like even with, yes, this happened to me with Mac, but I believe it's a life lesson. When you set your mind to something, when you set an end goal and you align your actions, whether it be your movements, your conversations, when you align to that end goal, it happens. So that's sort of what happened for me. I knew my end goal was that regional management position, so I started to align myself with that position to ensure that I was ready.
Nice. And so that kind of money, tell me in a ballpark, because I don't think listeners or even our students really have any idea of what that looks like, right? Because you're freelancing and then you're working a couple hours for Mac and then you're in a regional position. That's good
Yeah, you
money,
know,
right?
I really, you know, at that point was very comfortable. If I do have a husband, but if I had to support myself, I was very comfortable in that. I had a company car, I had a company cell phone. Yeah, many of
Wow.
the expenses or things that were, I won't say many, anything I needed to do my job was taken care of. And, you know, that included, you know, again, any technology, any supplies. It really, you know, there was never a point where I didn't feel as though the company wasn't paying me a wage um, that I felt was deserving, but there was never a point where I felt as if I was without anything I needed in order to do my job. So again, even with the car and all those things, you know, I was fully prepared for going to visit my stores and setting my calendar to make sure that I was present in stores and being at events and even travel. You know, the amount of training and support that I was given as a leader, you know, traveling to various trainings and events was also something that was really rewarding. And the company made sure that, you know, they provided us with those opportunities.
So does that still exist, do you think, in this climate and with all the changes in retail and then of course COVID and all these, all the things that have just happened in recent times? Are positions like that still available and are they as supportive as
Well,
you're
I'll tell you
saying?
this. I definitely believe that the the way that those positions are supported, if you will, I'm sure they've adjusted based on the new climate of COVID. You know, as with all sectors and all companies. I'll tell you one thing I learned once I stepped outside of Mac was the vast number of positions available in beauty across the board. So, one thing I started to do once I left Mac was be a little more intentional about my LinkedIn activity, really just, you know, understanding what's out there. And there are so many opportunities to go into leadership positions in beauty and to be a part of the you know the building some of these newer brands that are coming to market or that have come to market in the past few years. So if I have to solely speak about Mac, I'm not sure if, you know, the positions are available the way they used to be. If I'm speaking about beauty in general, there are probably even more positions available because you have more brands available right now. You're seeing more growth across the entire sector. So as those brands grow, they are looking for their leadership team. They're building out, you know, whether it be management, buyers, all types of positions that go along with managing the business of beauty. That's happening across the board. You're not just seeing it with companies like Mac, or you're not just seeing it with companies like the big ones, right? Like the motherships, if you will, the L'Oreal's, the ELCs. You're not just seeing it there. You're seeing it with some of the niche brands right now, which is super exciting.
Yeah, and I think that, once we get past this, and it's not like this in all areas of the country, right? I mean, in Michigan in particular, it's been hit hard, New York, but not all areas of the country are completely shutting down. So tell me a few pivotal moments in your career where you were like, either had this lasting impression, or something that really just maybe changed even your
Mm.
path?
Okay, that's a really great question. So a few pivotal moments. I will say moments when I was recognized and received, some sort of individual accolade. I used to sort of keep moving, right? Like, okay, great. Yeah, that was awesome. What's next? And I had a manager once tell me, hey, you sit with the wins, right? Because, you don't get that every day. So when someone's pulling you aside and they're saying, great job, or celebrating work that you've done, take a moment to celebrate yourself. So I'll say that was a pivotal moment for me because I was so busy, in the day-to-day work of getting things done. I didn't often take a moment to celebrate a win or acknowledge when something, work that I put in place. So that was definitely pivotal. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask, maybe if I ask you as well, like any big influencers or mentors, and maybe that pairs with a pivotal moment in your life. Sometimes influencers know who know that we admire them. Sometimes mentors know that we're being mentored by them, and sometimes they don't. So maybe even asking you that will bring out a point in your life where, you know, it just changed your path, or
Yeah, I
inspired
think,
your path.
even with so having really dynamic leaders manage you, and that's something when you tap into that and knowing like what their strengths are and what you can take away from them. Each time that I had a new, because I had several managers along my journey, and one thing I started to do was to really tap into what their strengths were. So when I could tap into the strengths and what they were trying to teach me and make sure that was the takeaway, I had such a great moment. Like oh my gosh, if I could name them all, um, it was just a time for me to really learn something about myself and be able to apply a strength that they had to either strengthen one of my opportunities or even address something that was a weakness for me. Those were all pivotal moments for me.
Great. Anybody in particular we might
Oh,
know that was an influence
okay.
to
So
you, or
yeah,
a
I'm from
mentor?
Michigan. So let's see. So I had my very first regional manager that saw something in me was Catherine Farmer. She was here for, oh my gosh, I forget how many years, but she was here for a good amount of time. So there could potentially be people that you guys have that worked with her or know of her. I had another manager for a very short period of time. She was here. She was from the New York area, and her name was Denise Zavala. And she really helped me like develop like a thicker skin, if you will. Like she helped me stand firm in my decision making and stand firm in my leadership style, so that my confidence didn't waver. So that I definitely appreciate her for that. I would say Denise, Catherine, and of them, my very last manager, he actually oversaw several individuals in my position, Todd Adrian. And the interesting piece about working for Todd, I had worked for him for the majority of my career because he was sort of that stair step manager. Maybe at one point I didn't report in directly to him, but my manager reported into him and so forth. So when it came to reporting directly into him, that was a very pivotal moment for me because for so long I had worked under him in some, shape, form, or fashion. So to report directly into him and admire his leadership style and just all the things that he brought to the table. So to work for him and have him, come to Michigan, tour my stores and really call out some of the things that I was doing as a leader in a positive way, that also contributed greatly to my career.
That's great. So, how did you end up leaving Mac? What was that? Did you start a family? Did
It's
you,
so
what
crazy
was the
because I
departure?
have three girls and I contribute. I used to call them all Mac babies because I had them all throughout my career. My first daughter, I was actually pregnant with her when I started working for Mac. So I had them the entire time and sort of juggled that work life balance of raising like small. I have my girls are my oldest is 14, my youngest is 4. So juggling that throughout my entire career with Mac was pretty phenomenal looking back on it. Again, in the moment, I just did what I, had to do, working in unison with my husband. But yes, I had them, children my entire career. Mac, as many companies do, towards the latter part of my career, went through a corporate restructure. And as part of that restructure, it was time for me to move on, if you will. So I had a great run, had done what I felt I could do in order to move the brand forward and really pour into the teams that I managed. But later 2019, it was time for me to move on. So that's what I decided to do. I have my company now where I work to support the beauty industry with all the skills I have. That's sort of how my company started. I said to myself, I can't not pour these skills back into the community that I've worked with for so long. So that's sort of how that transition happened.
I see. And it seems like you picked a good time because look at what happened in
I
2020.
know it, and you never know, right? You go through moments like that in life, like talk about pivotal, right? A 13-year career is
Yeah.
like a relationship. So you go through it and you think like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? And the universe has a way of confirming things for you. And the things have been amazing and personally and professionally. My husband and I have ventures that gave me an opportunity to focus on. Again, also having the opportunity to grow my business, having 2020 happen. Oh my gosh, right? Uh, that was just, if that
Yeah.
wasn't confirmation enough, my hat's off to all of the coworkers and friends that I still have with the brand. But that's something I probably wouldn't have wanted to manage.
Yeah.
Oh
For
my
sure. You couldn't have planned that better. But so tell me about your
God.
company
Okay,
now.
so
Tell us what you're doing now.
ironically, I tell people my company, Shay B Beautiful, I actually started the company way back in 2016 when I had just started working for Mac, but I was also a freelance makeup artist. And I'll say that one great thing about working for Mac is they did not prevent artists from building a brand outside of Mac either. So that was something that I always found really, I like that about Mac because they could have easily said, oh, hey, no, you're a Mac artist. Like you kind of got to stay here. So when I started with Mac as a part-timer, I started Shay B Beautiful as my MUA name. I was, again, looking to be a makeup artist, and my career as it took off a little faster than I thought with Mac. I sort of put Shay B Beautiful down and I never went back to it. When I branched out, and said, okay, I'm going to start this company and this is what I'm going to do with it, I thought, what am I going to name it? And I said, well, you're going to go back to the name that you selected at the beginning, right? It was bigger than the beauty is symbolizes not just the aesthetics of makeup, but it just symbolize the beauty of makeup. It symbolizes being beautiful from the inside out, right? Like being a good human, being good to people around you, like just exuding beauty, if you will. So went back to that name, and now today, I sort of support my clients in three fashions. One, I support by way of back office, right? Like a lot of people, a lot of makeup artists, they have the skill, but when it comes to setting up their back office and really getting some of their business in order, that can be intimidating. So I have services where I assist you with, setting up the business of your career in beauty. In those services, I partner with great organizations. One being Sanitation Conversation, where I encourage MUAs to ensure that they are trained in sanitation properly. I also partner with Gloss Genius, who's a booking online booking tool for individuals in the beauty industry. So I use these relationships to be able to teach and give makeup artists who are setting up a career in beauty avenues to do so, right? I love the organizations I work with, and I believe in what they're doing. So those are the recommendations I make. I also work in the branding space. So again, makeup artists that are branching out on their own. Right now, there's so many amazing artists out there, right? I won't say the market is oversaturated by any means, because more and more people are falling in love with beauty, and they want makeup is growing as a art form, and people wanting and demanding makeup even outside of special events. So there's room for more makeup artists. With that, I believe that there's an opportunity to have a signature. What are you known for? Why do customers come to you versus hiring or booking someone else? So I help in the branding space. And then outside of that, I take all that I've learned throughout my career with M.A.C, and I work in the sales and marketing space. So you get your back office set up, you're branded. Now, how do you sell and market yourself in a way that's effective? So that's essentially what I do under the Shay B Beautiful umbrella. I also still pick up the brush myself. I do some editorial makeup work. Every now and again, you can't, I've said, oh no, I'm not going to do makeup anymore. And then an opportunity comes along that feels right, and I go for it again. I'm definitely still an artist by trade and by heart. And outside of that, I'm also the owner of a beauty app called My Beauty Kit. It's an app and a brand. With that, the app is available in the App Store. It's called My Beauty Kit. And then if you go to the website, we have some really fun beauty products. I call them beauty sidekicks, if you will, that go with any beauty look you're doing. Like we have makeup remover pads, just all sorts of makeup bags, little fun novelty stuff to for any
So is
beauty
it a
lovers. So
retail?
yeah, I'm
It's
doing a
a
few
retail
things
like
right now, which
e-commerce?
is super exciting. So yeah, I'm very happy that I'm out on my own and just developing new relationships and getting to work with up and coming makeup artists. One thing I do want to go back to in regards to Shay B Beautiful, I have a program for makeup artists that are either recent graduates from beauty schools, or if they have picked up the trade and they're just, really looking for structure. I do have a program called the Beauty Print, which is essentially the blueprint to managing and scaling your career in beauty.
Nice.